Tonight, KXAN reveals more unauthorized construction work on City of Austin buildings leading to asbestos contaminations. Building projects moving forward, putting workers at risk of exposure to this substance. It's been linked to cancer if breathed in over long periods.
And now investigator Kylie McGivern has learned the city manager's office has called for an executive review after we discovered this potentially dangerous system breakdown.
There's a lot of people that were involved that are concerned. The bottom line is what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It doesn't go any further than that.
This worker agreed to speak with us under one condition. We conceal his identity for fear of retaliation. He says he and others had concerns about asbestos inside the city's Doris Miller Auditorium earlier this year.
We were doing wall construction, air condition, ceiling drops, and stuff like that.
City documents show that renovation work was not supposed to happen. Here's why. Before any work is done on a city building, a department must fill out a work request to avoid any potential asbestos exposures. The Parks and Recreation Department submitted its work request for this project, a music studio for youth, but it was denied by the city's asbestos manager because a survey was needed to know if asbestos was inside the building.
Asbestos is a carcinogen, and so any level of asbestos exposure is not deemed to be safe.
It wasn't until a few weeks into the project where a return vent was punched in the wall. We came back one morning and we were stopped because it had to be abated.
This worker says he did not know the construction he and his crews were doing had not been approved.
So I wanted you to take a look at that.
So it was denied before we even went in there. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this. There you have it.
It's unclear who gave the green light to start work without proper approval or how many people might have been exposed. Now, the city's looking into it.
What do you think when you hear that concern?
Doesn't sound like the appropriate action to take once you've been advised by a licensed consultant not to do the work.
We learned this is not the first time construction has continued after a work request was denied in the past year. Over at Austin Water, the city shot down a request, noting all walls, floors, and window glazing are positive for asbestos. Still, work moved forward, and 20 people were potentially exposed. Comments from workers on injury forms say they never knew or were informed, but management knew about it, and that department heads should have told workers about it so they could wear the right safety equipment. At the Austin Fire Department, photos we obtained from the city show a training facility where unauthorized construction disturbed asbestos in the flooring. More than 30 people were working in the building, though it's still unknown how many might have been exposed. Now, the city is trying to learn why work proceeded in those departments without approval as well. We discovered part of the reason: no one is actually following up on denied work requests.
City staff is responsible for their own safety. We don't follow up by checking to make sure they do not disturb the materials. And if it's necessary to add components to enhance the ability of the program to function appropriately, then that would be something that we would look at.
At the end of the day, all for what? What did that project mean so much that it put people's lives in danger?
The asbestos manager called what our investigation uncovered an outlier, saying these incidents don't happen on a regular basis. Right now, we're waiting on the results of what the city calls a thorough review of asbestos exposures. We will be sure to bring you those answers as soon as they become available. At City Hall, Kylie McGivern, KXAN Investigates.
A KXAN investigation finds the promise of lifetime medical surveillance for employees potentially exposed to asbestos doesn't hold any weight. This summer, we shared city workers' concerns of asbestos at Austin's airport going ignored, ultimately putting the health and safety of at least 120 workers at risk. ABIA told us 8 of those workers closest to the contamination would be monitored for the rest of their lives. But KXAN investigator Kylie McGivern discovered that is no longer the case.
There are 8 of our team members that actually performed the work that's of concern.
Renovation work in ABIA's maintenance complex, where asbestos and black mastic flooring adhesive was exposed when employees ripped up carpet.
And with those employees, we've made sure that they understand all of their workers' comp's benefits, as well as providing them surveillance for life regarding this issue.
That was back in June. The next month, during the city's Airport Advisory Commission meeting, ABIA's chief operating officer said the same thing.
Each one of those employees is covered by our third-party insurer and will receive testing as long as they go back for their annual testing for the rest of their life. As a benefit from the city, it doesn't cost them anything.
In August, Austin's Risk Management Division emailed the COO and city asbestos manager, among others, saying 11 aviation employees were quite clear in their understanding of entitlement to an annual exam. But in reality, the email states city management would have to approve any policy that includes annual exams after an asbestos exposure, because that's not typically covered in workers' comp. A flyer prepared for employees after our story aired says the asbestos level they were potentially exposed to was not high enough to require annual exams.
I can assure you that no matter what you've heard or the stories, we're 100% committed to our employee safety.